I'll start with the budget. As you know, I'm now a member of the Appropriations Committee, so the budget, the appropriations is certainly one thing that's going to be affecting you one way or the other. I'll talk a little bit about immigration reform, and then I'll leave it open for any questions and answers that you might have on banking issues. I did vote against the Dodd-Frank's bill, so if anybody's wondering how I voted on that, I voted against that because I've always felt that if you have a problem, you focus on that problem and not paint everybody with the same paintbrush, and that's a solution that both Washington and Austin have a tendency of doing, is that instead of focusing on a problem, they paint everybody with this. I don't think y'all were involved with Wall Street and the issues that we have, but y'all were included along with other folks, so that's why I voted against this. Let me just talk about the two issues, the budget, and then let me talk about immigration reform, because I think that will affect all of us one way or the other. Number one, on the budget, I have people, I just had a town hall meeting, and all the town hall meetings I've had, people will ask me to do three things in one breath. One, keep our taxes low. Two, reduce the deficit because it's out of hand. And number three, don't cut my program because my program is the most important program in the whole world. I don't know if your plane was delayed when you were flying up here, but I got to Houston, everything was fine, we got in. We flew an hour later because the as you know, FAA had been cut a bit, they were furloughed, so therefore budget cuts sequester itself there. The problem with the budget or the deficit here in the United States is very simple. Let me simplify it. $3.7 trillion is our federal budget. $2.7 trillion a year is what the taxes and fees bring in. The deficit is that difference. Now, we as business people, I've been a small business owner myself, the first thing we think about is, okay, if your expenditures are at 3.7, your income is at 2.7, what's the first thing we say? Reduce your expenses down to match the revenues. I've been a small business owner, and that's the logical position. Now, if we did that, our job would be very easy as members of Congress, because the only thing I would be talking to you about is talking to you about Social Security, Medicare, and the entitlements, and that pretty much is it. Maybe there'll be a little bit of money left. That would be it. No money for the military, no money for Homeland Security, no money for transportation, no money for education, no money for research, because everything pretty much goes to the entitlements. In fact, the first thing I learned when I got into the appropriations, well, I knew this already, but the first thing the chairman told us when we got into the appropriations was, by the way, 2/3 of the budget is on automatic, and we only deal with 1/3 of the budget. That's it. The rest is on the automatic itself, what I call Social Security and Medicare and those type of entitlements. And I say this because eventually, if we are going to be addressing the issue of the appropriations for the budget, we have to deal with the issues that are a little touchy, Social Security and Medicare. Nobody wants to talk about it. The elderly have a good way of coming out and voting. But again, if we are going to address this issue, we have to address the issue of Social Security, Medicare at one time or another. I'm one of those that I feel that, you know, there's a lot of ways of addressing this, but we got to get together, both Democrats and Republicans, because if a Democrat comes up with a solution, you'll see a 30-second spot by the Republicans. If a Republican comes up with an idea, then the Democrats will run a 30-second spot. But again, I say this because eventually we got to address, if we really want to get down to the crux of the 3.7, the 2.7 difference, we got to talk about that, number one. Number two, let's talk about immigration reform. Immigration reform or immigration, people crossing the borders have been with us for a long time. In fact, I looked at a letter the other day. It was from a officer in charge of border, and he sent a letter to the state officials at that time and said, hey, we got, at that time he was talking about 5 families. There's 5 families that came in, they're not respecting the law, they're taking over our land, we got to kick these people out because they're not respecting the law, they don't belong here. Now, that letter was written in 1830, it was in Spanish, it was a gentleman by the name of Cornelio Diaz to Travis, to Austin, and it was basically, he was talking about Americans coming in, crossing the river, not the Rio Grande, but crossing the river, coming over and taking over the land that belonged to Mexico at that particular time. So immigration reform has been, or should I say immigration matters have been with us for many, many years. Now, the issue has to be addressed in three ways, I believe, or any immigration reform has to be done in three ways. And as you know, immigration is now a topic that certain parties want to talk about that. And it had to be, if you recall, and I don't want to get political here, but I'll say this, there was one candidate running for president that his immigration reform, Mitt Romney, was basically, he said, we're going to make life so difficult for those undocumented aliens. We're going to make it so difficult that they're going to self-deport. Remember that? That was the immigration policy of one party. Then the November 6th election came in. Obama got 70% of the Hispanic vote. From one day to the other, the ideology, the philosophy changed to basically to let's talk about immigration reform. So we are now looking at the immigration debate, and as you know, you look at the history of the United States. First, it was the Germans, it was the Irish, it was Chinese, and now it's the Hispanics. But there's been a debate: how many people should come in, under what circumstances they should come in. But every immigration reform should have three things: one, border security. Number one, smart border security. And for those people who think that building a wall is the solution, look at the Great Wall of China, look at the Berlin Wall, look at other walls, the Germans and the French in World War I. And those, we know that it's a 14th century solution to a 21st century. So we got to be smart on how we provide border security, number one. Number two, a guest worker plan. A guest worker plan is important because most of the people coming into the United States are coming in for economic reasons. In fact, I'm one of those that I feel that if you do a good guest worker program, it actually will help border security, because the people that are coming in to work, you know who they are, and then Border Patrol and ICE can focus on the bad people, not the ones coming in for economic reasons, but can focus on those people because the other ones are coming in and going in. And by the way, 40% of the 11 or 12 million non-documented persons that we have right now came in through a legal permit or visa. So you can build the biggest fence out there. I know it makes us feel good to say, build the biggest fence, but if 40% are coming in and we just didn't tell them it's time for them to go home, then that's the other emphasis we need to put in. By the way, if you look at some of the proposals, what are they? Put more Border Patrol, fence, and National Guard. I support 2 out of the 3, but again, we're missing really the way to address this. Finally, the last thing, because I see my good friend Randy over here, and he's going to agree with everything I've said so far. But the other thing is, what do we do about the 11 or 12 million undocumented persons that we have? I don't want to have amnesty like President Reagan did in 1986 along with the Democrats. I think we need to have some sort of earned pathway. We need to take them out of the shadows and know who they are. They have criminal records. I'll be the first one to say deport those individuals. But we ought to have them earned, because if you feel that we're going to get enough buses out there to deport all of them, it's not going to happen. So we got to take them out of the shadows and do a better job to make sure that they don't come back again. I mean, we don't want to work with those individuals and then we're back again 20, 30 years from now because we're not doing the right job at border security. So why do I mention immigration reform? Because one way or the other, it's going to affect all of y'all. It's going to affect all of y'all one way or the other, and we got to do it right, and we got to do it in a bipartisan way, and we got to do it in a common sense, logical way to address this. Immigration reform is an emotional issue. It's been there since 1830. Since 1830, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's been around for a long time. We just got to do it right. And if we do it right, then I think we'll be able to address this emotional issue. So again, budget, and then the other thing, of course, is the immigration reform. I know my good friend Randy. We used to serve together in the agriculture. He does a great job. I know for the agriculture area, that's immigration reform, the ag job is something important, and I think it's going to be affecting us one way or the other. So I will take the easy questions that you have, all the hard questions. Randy will answer the hard questions. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate what y'all do as community bankers. When I first met Steve, I was in the financial institutions back in Texas, and when the savings and loans were having a difficult time, and now there are modern times where other folks were having a difficult time, it was the community independent bankers like yourself that have been always stable. You always have been very stable throughout the many years, and I appreciate the prudent steps and the prudent approach that y'all take, and that's why I support you, all the work that y'all do. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you so much.